I just hit you like a sandbag.
Flies, bro.
I just told you, like, yo, if you're born 2000, you're 23 right now.
Time flies, bro.
And the way your jaw just dropped, though.
I wasn't. Well, it wasn't. It was. Is it shocking? Not necessarily. I'm thinking about myself. I'm like, because like I say in every episode, I'm 34 years old. Yeah. So, I still classify myself as a young adult. But I mean, what is it? Anyway. Heathen Radio. My name is Andrew. I'm 34 years old. I am a member of the Mount Pisgah Seventh-day Adventist Church in Miami Gardens, Florida. I am, of course, here with my co-host, Matt.
Your guy, Matt. Yeah, I'm back. And 34 years old as well. Member of the Maranatha SDA Church in Miami Gardens, Florida. And so, as we were talking about earlier, today's episode is about Zoomers. Well, Generation Z, as we call
it. Yes, it's about Zoomers, but I think we'll get into it a little bit more because I have a specific type of, a specific demographic that I'm thinking of that is really going to be the ones to, I think, usher in the Reformation that we've been talking about. But okay. Zoomers right now, we're looking at Wikipedia here right now, and Generation Z looks to be the generation that succeeded Generation Alpha. So what we're looking at right here is a what's this? A graph, a gauge here. Generation Z looks to be anyone born after 1996. Millennials are between 81 to 96. Generation X was 65 to 80. Baby boomers were 46 to 64, and the silent generation was 28 to 45. So let's see here. So if you were, like you were saying, bro, if you were born in 2000, you're 26 years old.
You're 23 right now. Right? If you're born in 2000, you're 23. You literally just go. We're in 2023. Most of the kids are 23. So like pretty much in 2021, all of the 2000s babies turn 21.
Yeah.
So now when you go, if you give your ID to a liquor store or something, all they have to see is that you have a 19 and you're over 21. They already know. As long as your thing says 19, even 99, they know you're over 21. Yeah. So, yeah, man, we out here like.
But I don't. Okay, so, and let's see here. What do we think that? Let's see here. How are they relevant to the status of the church as of right now? And I think that my answer to that question would be, let's see here. How are they relevant? I mean, I hate to say this because I classify myself as a young adult, but like they're the young adults.
No, they are the young adults now. I mean, we're technically supposed to be church staff and stuff. Like we're technically like the deacons and the praise team leaders and like the administration. We're at the age now where we qualify for like administration. You know what I'm saying?
Who determines who qualifies?
I mean, even look at like, all right, and this is maybe not the best parallel, but even look at American government. You're not allowed to run for presidency at 35. Mm-hmm. So even if you take that secular rule and apply it to the church, like we're at that age now. Like we're pretty much at the age where
we can run for president.
Yeah, you can run for president.
Well, I mean,
when's your birthday next year?
I'm talking about we could run for president of the church. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you could be a pastor. Remember, a lot of our friends are pastors now. We know at least 5 or 6 people that we went to school with that are full blown, and they're senior pastors.
You're right,
and they've been senior pastors for years. So I think we're definitely not young adults anymore. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah,
we full grown, baby. We full grown, man. We full grown.
But you're right. But I don't know that. Let's see here. I don't think that
it doesn't feel like it though.
Right, and I think the main reason for that is because the let's see here. I guess it would be Generation X or
probably
baby boomers
are still
they're still in control.
Yeah.
For the most part.
For sure.
Let me see here. I can't say that they may not be the pastors of these churches, but they're definitely the
church board, secretary, treasurer, etc. Yeah.
Just like the U.S. government, those ones are the ones that
make the ones that pull the strings. They're the ones that actually decide what's gonna go on. Yeah, and they have more influence, they have more power, they have more say so. Like they're gonna be the guys that people are gonna listen to. And it's always been a war in the church with the older side, and at least in my church growing up, it was a literal civil war every Sabbath. I mean, it was kids versus adults every Sabbath, because they were just trying to preach us things, and a lot of us were just stubborn, and we wanted to figure it out ourselves, and it was like, no, this is how you do it. And then, I mean, like let's be honest, like a lot of people in the millennial generation, we're talking like 81 to 96, a lot of us have left the church and decided not to come back because of that strife of just like the adults and the boomers and the generation X, that have been just trying to like tell us how to do it, tell us how to worship, tell us how we need to come to church, tell us how to, and they have authority. They're the ones in charge in this building. Like as much as you hate it,
they won,
and a lot of them won, and we left. That's it. Like we surrendered. We raised the right flag. We raised the white flag and walked out of it and never came back. A lot of, I would say that's the majority of our generation. I could barely name 10 people on my hand that are in my generation that still go to church religiously, that are not like working at church, you know, just for pleasure. They're just going to church.
Well, I think when it comes to, the mid to late 30s, I would say, like, I definitely agree with you that the ones that are still in the church right now are the ones who have some type of, they have an obligation. Maybe not an obligation. Maybe not is not the right word, but they're invested in it. I mean, more than the general public. I guess.
And it's funny. My mom has this theory. She always tells me, she's like, everybody leaves the church at some point, which is true. Yeah. Because you're in a kid. You can't really have a choice. You got to get in the car. You got to put on your church clothes. You got to get there. You don't have a choice. And around between 18 and 21, you kind of realize you kind of got a choice now. Like you don't have to go. And then it's funny because I saw something the other day and I thought it was hilarious. It was I think a TikTok post or something, when the parent finally asked the kid if they wanted to go to church. And the kid was like in the bed with the covers up, like, I get a choice? Like, because they never asked. It was always like, all right, come on, get up, put the church. Right. And it was the funniest post to me because I'm like, man, that's actually true. Like at some age, your parent came in the room and they were going to go to church regardless. And they came and asked you, do you want to go to church? And you had an option to say no. And you didn't even know. And it's funny because in the video, like, you could tell he's just like,
this is like a trap.
Yeah, like can I say no? And it's just like,
this is a trap.
And then he's like, nah. And he tries it. He's like, I'm gonna just chill today. And she's like, okay, all right, well, just make sure the dishes are clean when I get back. And she leaves. And it was the funniest video to me ever because it's like, it's true. At some age, you get autonomy to decide if you want to go to church or not. And so, like, I think we all went through this, like, period where we leave the church. And as our mom said, she believes that everybody comes back once they have kids. She believes that's what draws people to come back to church. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've seen it happen before my eyes. I think the problem here is our generation millennials aren't having as many kids as our predecessors are.
Oh, well, that's definitely true. Mostly that's true with an
asterisk. I mean, it depends on your circle. But in my experience, I've seen that the birth rate is definitely declined, Not to say that people aren't having them, but it's just not, it's not as much as
we definitely having less parents, kids now.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
That's true.
Yeah, my mother believes that a lot of people are coming back to the church after they have kids. And it's true. I've seen it. I've seen people get in their mid-20s and decide they don't want nothing to do with church. They go out into the world. It's almost like they want to give you that Bible story, the Jonah and the whale. Like, you going to run, but you going to be back. The prodigal son, the prodigal son joint. Like, you going to run. Go ahead and see what's on the world. Go ahead and see what they got going on out there. We see you. We'll see you coming back. And, a lot of them do. Because it's.
I don't think it would be a lot of them do.
I
think that used to be the case, but I don't think that that's the case much anymore because I think that most of these parents are seeing that church is not necessarily the moral foundation that they thought it was.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the inside is being exposed, but I think it's still better than a lot of other options. And I think that's what people are like going to church for at this point. It's like, it's better to be here than it is to be there, over there, like in the street, whatever, etc., whatever you want to call it. Like it's a means to keep busy in a positive way. I think to be honest, who knows? Maybe that's why a lot of our parents went to begin with as well. They just felt like, if I'm going to be doing things with my time, I might as well just spread positivity, be with a group of other people that have same morals and spread positivity with them. Yeah. So I think the reason why we go may not be the reason why we did as kids or young adults, but I've seen people coming back. I've seen a lot of people come back.
Yeah, well, but the church doesn't have a monopoly on positivity, though.
They do not. But there's
and I think that people are starting to realize that now.
It's true. And I mean, I think I said this last episode. The hope is church's biggest export.
Mm-hmm.
That's church's biggest export. Mm-hmm. It's not that they're promising you anything. I mean, they are. Don't get me wrong. There are promises.
They're not explicitly promising you anything, but it's definitely an implied, and there's definitely an implied. I won't go say message. There's definitely an implied agenda when it comes to the church as an institution.
Yeah, and hope is important, especially when you're a kid and you don't know what's going on in the world. Just for somebody to tell you like, yo, there's a lot more positive in the world, and then you have to kind of gauge that when you get in the world and you realize, okay, wait, like, all right, like there's these kind of people.
But no.
But don't get me wrong, that mindset is still very powerful. It's still the best way to go out into the world. But a lot of people,
a mindset of hope, is that what you're talking about?
A mindset of hope, but a lot of people, it comes off as naive, you know. And a lot of people, you know, and we all had them friends that they turned 18, 19, and they decided, I'm gonna go out in the streets, man. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this full time now. Yep. Yeah, I'm doing this full time. I'm going to the club. You're gonna see me out every weekend. Like I'm gonna sip on whatever I want to sip on. I'm gonna tote whatever I want to tote. And we all know, we can all name at least 3 or 4 people that went straight out into the street with just naive, no experience, and it went down in a fiery blaze.
Well, that's because if you go into the world with that naive spirit, you are prey.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sheltered like, we have to admit that if you're deep in the Adventist culture, there's a level of shelteredness that you're gonna have as far as the real world is concerned. Yeah, like you're not gonna blend. I remember my first time leaving like the Adventist church and trying to blend out there. I'm like, yeah, I am nothing like this people. Like, it's not that I hated them or I didn't feel like I could relate. It's just like I have nothing to talk to them about. It takes time to acclimate. Yeah, it took time. It just took a lot of time. It took time to realize that, like, you know, even we're the same person under a couple of different levels, you know.
Well, there's a balance that you can strike. You know, it takes some time to determine where the, you know, tipping point is. You know, there's definitely a balance where you can be Adventist but also be relatable to non-Adventists. I mean, isn't that the whole point of what Jesus did? That was supposed to be our example. You know what I mean?
If you can't build that bridge, you're failing in ministry already.
Exactly.
You can't build that bridge. Nobody wants to. You're not even meant to minister to people already in the building. It doesn't make sense.
They're already here.
They're already here. We are like, they already believe what you believe. Like, the purpose of the religion in itself is to minister, is to get other people outside. So how are you going to talk to them if you don't know anything about them? You can't relate to them. You can't even, you know, it's just, it's one of them things that as a kid, you realize how sheltered you are once you get out of the church. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a wake-up call. Some people have heavy wake-up calls. Some people end up coming back. Some people, and I think I told you this the other day, like, I met somebody that, you know, they left the church when they were like 18 or 19. Like, they couldn't wait. And I spoke to them, and I mean, you could tell that she was just very attached to her experiences as a childhood. Me and my sister say this all the time, but we argue that we had a near perfect childhood, a very near perfect childhood. I mean, there's a lot of activities and stimulation a lot of kids don't get, like, at school or at home. You know, like, parents are busy. You know, I get it. Like,
especially
school,
now.
Yeah, school, like, teachers don't care. You know, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there's usually a community outside of school and home that's a middle ground, that's where you find your, like, life experiences. For some people, it ends up being a sport. For some people, it ends up being, like, maybe video games nowadays, you know. You play online with people. Like, back in my day, we played them games next to each other. You know what I'm saying? You had Mario Kart on the 4 screen. You know what I'm saying?
Four carts on the one screen,
yeah, the screen
bro.
Split
That's
in
4 right there.
Yeah, we were utilizing every inch of that 32-inch TV, right? And we had that screen split in 4. You had to be next to somebody to the point where if you wanted to cheat, you had to literally tap the controller out their hand. You know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't. Yeah. So, I mean, nowadays you could be across the world and play with somebody. So, I think the way our childhood brought us together and just common interests, common activities, it's near perfect. It's near perfect, man. Okay. It's a lot of work to get to replicate. And don't get me wrong, I do think that you can replicate that childhood now. It's just
it's way more difficult though.
It's difficult. Don't get me wrong, but I do think the childhood that we had is replicatable. You just have to find the community, because it's not the general community anymore. It's not the general community. I'm gonna be honest, and I think we forget, like, we're in America and, like, there's a lot of privilege here. Like, there's a lot of things, like, not having to share your stuff growing up is one of the worst things. It'll turn into one of the worst people on the planet. And I think, hey, no shade to only children, but like
they got it bad, bro.
No shade to only children, but I don't.
They got it bad.
I never had anything that I could just call mine, like ever. Like growing
it was
up,
always shared.
Yeah, it was all
passed down. Especially you with your older brother, you always gave me
older brother,
hand-me-downs,
younger
bro.
sister. Everything I had was shared, man. It got to a point where we just started buying Christmas gifts that we all could use. Like it just, DVDs was big back then. There was no Netflix. YouTube was barely out, so. DVDs, we used to buy like we like Family Guy, and we used to buy the Family Guy season box DVDs for each other for Christmas.
Yeah,
because it was like
I know.
Watch that too.
In 2 weeks, that's coming back around.
No, but we all gonna sit and watch it together. So it's like it got to a point where even my gifts were things that I could do together with people. I had somebody get mad at me because I bought them a gift and I'm like, we could both use this, and they were like, so it's for you then? No, this is for us. Like we could both use it. But that's how I've been buying gifts my whole life. It's just like I like to share my gifts with people, and I don't think that's crazy. But they're like, yeah, you're selfish. We can talk about that some other episode, but like you're selfish for wanting to be able to use my gift. No, like I just think that
we should be able to use it. There should be a community.
Yeah,
right?
like you like fishing, I'm gonna buy you a canoe. We both go fishing in the canoe. Like what's the problem? We both catch a fish. We both happy. Yeah, we both happy. So like, what's the problem? But yeah, like not sharing things, I think is a lot. I think that's one of the things this generation I feel like is missing sometimes. I mean, you already have
that feeling of self the self involvement with each other.
Yeah,
like the kind of the mixing of
the mixing of just people, even if you don't know them, and you like them. Like that's, if anything, that taught me more in the church about real life than anything else, because you have to put up with people that you do not like at this church.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Even if you like them, don't like them, because we all got people at our job. We do not like this guy at our job. We do not like this lady at our job. Whoever. And the first time I experienced that as a kid was at church. It's like, we do not like this deacon. We do not like this guy.
Gotta work with him now. Gotta see him every week.
So gotta come. You still gotta say happy Sabbath to him. You still gotta go maybe even sit next to him at church. Like you gotta be in the same rooms with this guy. So it's one of those first times where you're like you're having to build real world skills and adapt with people that you don't like, which I still hate doing as a grown adult.
That's part of growing up, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're forced to do it, it's a lot better, and it makes you just a more welcoming person in general. And I think that adds to your ministry as well too.
So what part do Zoomers have to play in this whole situation that we've outlined?
I mean, like, all right, like, okay, have you seen any Zoomers in church like as of lately? Have you been to a church recently and talked with kids between the ages of 12 and 18?
Because the last time that I was in there, I definitely saw there was definitely a group of young adults, and I'll say anywhere from early 20s to mid to late 30s. There was definitely a group in there, but they were in the congregation. They were not leading anything,
right?
Which I mean that's a strategy. I just don't know, like, and this is so eventually the ones that are running these churches, we'll say boomers and Generation X, that members that are running this church, they'll be gone one day.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I'm not sure if there's a succession plan in place. It's like, Sister so and so been the secretary for 50 years. Well, when Sister so and so ain't here no more, who's the next secretary? Or and it's like, and I don't think it's gonna happen all at once. That I might be proven wrong because they drop it, and it might happen all at once. But maybe that's the kick that's gonna get the this reformation started, where it's like, hey, yo, listen, you got you don't have a lot of young adults in the church anymore, not nearly as much as there used to be. That's the first thing. The second thing is the ones that are in the church don't necessarily have the responsibilities that their parents had at their age.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
And so so what does that mean? I mean, I don't know.
Look, I'm a strong supporter of not blaming kids. Believe it or not, it's never the kid's fault. It's a kid.
Right.
This kid is 12 to 18
do.
years old. They're gonna do what you tell them to do. That's just the name of the game. That's how kids work. If you tell them, hey, look, I'm gonna be honest. This is gonna sound crazy. This is gonna sound a little. This is gonna sound like controversial, but kids don't really got no choice. You don't got, like, my mom told me, hey, you got to sing in this choir, and I said, I don't want to sing in the choir.
Too bad.
She said, too bad. That's what she said. Too bad. And she was passionate about it, so she made sure we kept doing it. So I sang in the choir my whole childhood, and I never liked it. And it's funny, when I got to the age of 18 and she sent me to Oakwood, she said, you gotta join choir class. You gotta join a choir at Oakwood. And I said, I'm done with that. And I wasn't home no more. She couldn't force me to do it. I said, nope. I'm done with that. I was forced to do it my whole childhood. But I understand, and back to the group thing. I think that's what these kids are missing now more than anything else. Like, even, as I said, even the small act of playing video games used to pack 4 or 5 kids in the same room. You're rare bound to find 4 or 5 kids packed in the same room nowadays. Everybody's got their own tablet. Everybody's got their own phone. Everybody's got their own. Even the group. We can look at just the structure of choirs. When last time you seen a decently sized children's choir at a church?
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? And remember, that's a group activity. I think especially as kids, you find power in group activities. Like, I think a lot of that narrative is changing because you got a lot of, like, you know, YouTube kids that want to be on YouTube and they want their own channel for themselves. And it's just like, I think there's a celebrity mindset that's coming with this next generation. And as I said, I'm not a believer of blaming the kids, because there's a general influence in every world, but the church or the influence that you're giving the kids has to be stronger than the general influence.
It's interesting that you talk about the generation that's coming after this, because I think that those are the ones that I really think about specifically. So when we first got started with this episode, the part that the ones that I was necessarily thinking about were, like I said, the 12 to 18s, the 12 to 17s, or whatever, because they're the ones that I think,
they're the ones.
They're waking up faster than any of us.
Oh, I mean, they have information at their fingertips,
right? And I'm, what do I want to say? Zoomers, I think they'll be okay. Yeah. I think they'll be all right. You know, they've gotten to the point in their lives right now where they're finally starting to catch on. You know what I mean? It takes a little while to, you know, kind of get your bearings and figure out what you want, who you are, who you want to be, all that kind of stuff. But they got that figured out. The next generation after that, like I said, the 12 to 18s, like, they're I'm not as confident that in their success as I would like to be, you know. And I see it with my own, you know, in my own family. I got, you know, I got family members that are like that, you know, and I'm and thankfully they're in an environment that was privileged, like you're talking about. So, you know, they'll be okay too, but that family structure is not the norm anymore, you know. And so and I don't, and so you got that aspect, you know, a turbulent family life, okay, and then you've also got the aspect of, you know, a church that's run by people who are, you know, 50 years older than you, you know, that are more traditional, and so tend to stick to tradition rather than to adapt and evolve, which, you know, is its own can of worms. But you know, this, like, all these elements are coming into the pot. You know what I mean? And it's like they just barely teenagers now, bro. Like, can you imagine having Chat GPT when you were a teenager, bro?
Forget school, yo. Like, school. Chat GPT just invalidated traditional schooling. Like, traditional education is not even valid anymore after Chat GPT.
This whole society is getting turned.
I can remember when Wikipedia came out, and it was giving us a big deal about Wikipedia. Like, don't use it. Don't even open the website, because It's people sourced and it could be wrong, man. Look, let me tell you, if something's wrong on Wikipedia, it's corrected within minutes. All right, it's corrected within minutes, and everything on Wikipedia has a source. So if you really wanted to test it, you can go back and read the original article. You can dive as deep as you want with Wikipedia. You can dive as deep as you want, and people to this day be like, "Yeah, man, you can't trust that thing." Man, get out of here. You type in something, the first results Wikipedia, and you're clicking it. So stop playing and acting like you. I remember when it came out, and they were just trying to tell us, "Don't you?" Yeah. I can't imagine.
Stop. Don't access knowledge. Like what?
I can't imagine ChatGPT being out when I was in like 6th grade. It would be unbelievable. But I want to go back to like around 2012 when I actually met. I was probably like 23, 24 at the time, and I met my first group of kids that were 2000. Like, I'm always tapped in with the younger generations. Always. Always. I go to church right now and I talk to the kids when I talk to the adults. For the most part. Because they have things going on.
They got new ideas.
And they got new ideas. They're fresh thinking. They know what's going on. I get along with the kids in my church, at my local church, more than the grown folk.
Yeah.
Because the grown folk, I talk to them, but
they don't want to. They know everything.
Stuck. Like, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to hear that.
No thanks.
Like, I don't want to hear a lecture.
Yeah.
I want to hear a lecture. Yeah. And when I talk to the kids, I don't lecture them either. I ask them, like, how's your life? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, right.
Like I'm actually curious.
Who's popular now? Who you listening to?
Yeah. And it's funny, man. I never forget. So back to 2012, I remember there was a kid at our church. You know, he went to public school or whatever. And I remember he would call it. And I would, like, there was other people my age at the church. And we would, like, talk to him and be like, yo, you know who's going to be hot next? And we're like, man, get out of here. And I remember he told me, I think the first rapper he ever came to me, he told me, he's like, there's this dude and his name is XXX Tentacion. And we're like, you gotta be kidding.
This guy?
And we're like, you got to be kidding. Me and all the other 20-year-olds in the church were like, you're wild for that, bro. Mark his words. Within the next 3-4 months, this kid was everywhere. This kid had number 1 songs, platinum. The rest is soul. He ended up getting killed in 2019 in a parking lot here in Broward County, actually.
Yep,
and he's from my hometown, too. He's from Broward County, and it's like, yo, I never heard of this kid. And I heard of him in Indiana through this other kid at my church. I said, yo, he about to be the next hot thing. And so mark my words, another 5 months later, he says, hey, I got somebody else that's going to be hot.
He like the plug.
And I'm like, bro, we're all looking at him like, what? Like, no, like, what? And he's like, yo, this next dude, his name?
About to be crazy.
21 Savage. I can't make this up. And this is like 2013, 14 at the time. 21 was just coming out, like maybe 15, 16. But 21 was just coming out. And as he said it, boom, happened. So like you got to understand that these kids are telling the future a lot of the times. Yeah, like it happens in their circle before it happens on a larger scale.
Well, that's because they're the ones that are making it.
Yeah, they're making it and they're experiencing it first. So by the time
don't nobody care what anybody 30, 40, 50 years old thinks. They're not the one. They're not the ones that are molding culture. It's the ones below us that are doing
It's happening in a basement at somebody's apartment complex somewhere, like at a computer that barely works, you know, like, and I can say this because at 17, 18 years old, that's how we was doing it.
Yeah.
We had barely enough equipment to do it, like, but those miracle stories that we hear, like that grind that we don't have anymore in our 30s, like, these kids still got that. They have this curiosity, this intense curiosity, this intense passion, and this intense, even if it's a lack of resources, they use what they have. Yeah, and they figure it out.
And I think you're right. They definitely have an intense curiosity that I think is going to clash with the traditional culture that is in most of our churches. Yes. And it's going like because like it's funny what we like how we was talking about it before. It's like they won, you know, like the Generation X. Is that right? Generation X and baby boomers and stuff, they won. We was like, okay, no problem, you can have it. Bye,
they said, listen, it was like, all right, dude, that's you. That's all you. You got
Zoomers
it.
And the ones that is teenagers right now, they're forced to be in the church because they have to be in there, but they asking the questions that we didn't start asking until our 30s. Yeah. And it's I'm kind of excited to see what happens when these two titans of culture meet, because it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm terribly excited because and technically we're supposed to be the ones fighting them at this era, and this is the scary part because our entire generation is somewhat missing from the church. You could argue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like this entire generation of what is it, 81 to 96 is missing. There's a gap
Millennials
there.
is definitely missing from the
So
church.
it's funny because Generation Z is supposed to be like not arguing, but they're supposed to be debating with us.
Right.
But we're not even there.
Yeah.
So Generation Z is forced to debate with the people older, the generation before us.
Yeah.
So they're dating with people in Generation X that were born in like the 80s, early 80s, you know? So it's like,
yeah, Generation X is 65
yeah,
to 80.
late 80s or early 80s to early 60s. You know, like they're debating with a completely different generation.
Yep.
We're supposed to be that gap that's supposed to kind of bring them back to normal. So I always feel like that's always been a calling of mine at the church. It's to minister to the youth. Always. Always. So when I turned 21.
They're the future.
Yeah, and you know, you age out of it. We understand that, but I always felt like I had to give something back before I left. So when I turned 21, you know, I was an avid drum corps member at my church, and when I turned 21, the drum corps was gonna kind of disintegrate. It was kind of falling apart, you know, because all the older, usually you age out at around 18, 19, and you kind of just go off to college, and nobody ever sees you again. You know, I ended up going off to college, but then ended up coming back at around 21. And decided that, you know what, I'm going to help these kids. It became like my full-time ministry at the time. I said, you know, I'm going to put all the time I have into helping these kids get as good as they can be, you know?
Yeah.
And glad I did that. Glad I did that. I had the energy, I had the resources, I had the knowledge. I had everything. I had everything at the time. And it was just like, it'd be a disgrace for me to not use this gift to hand off to the next generation. Because nobody, at this age, like nobody else would have been able to use the knowledge that I had. Yeah. And it felt like I was at a point where I just had all this knowledge.
You were the only one.
And I was the only one. And that's the thing, going back to the group thing, like in order to create a group, you have to teach a group sometimes. And I think that's a lot of the things that our older generations don't want to hear. It's like, no. Because a lot of people don't want to teach it. They just like, not the fact that they're selfish with it. They just might be too lazy to do it. They just like, they don't see the importance in it. They're not passionate about handing it down. Yeah, that's and seeing true. Somebody at a different age do it the way that they did it.
Yeah, that's true.
I get chills when I see kids do things the way that I used to do them, or think the way that I used to think when I was their age. And so, as I said, I turned 21 and I directed my local drum corps at my church for about 2-3 years. Okay. And it was beautiful because there was a guy that was older than me, and this guy is Generation X. I think he's born like probably like early 80s, if not late 70s. And his name was Earl. Shout out to Earl, man. Earl was my like kind of like mentor. So, you know, he knew he didn't know how to like play drums. Like, hey, no shade, Earl, but he didn't know how to play drums, man. But he had a, you know, business mindset. You know, we actually ended up playing for a lot of parades, and he got us new equipment. You know, we bought new drums. We always had new sticks, new drums, new heads for the drums, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So he did all the administration work and allowed me to just be there and pass on my knowledge and teach these kids how to play drums. And a lot of those kids still play drums to this day. And I can tell you right now, if it wasn't for the little 2 years I put in, that drum corps probably wouldn't exist right now. It's one of the only drum corps remaining in South Florida, and it's there because I would like to think it's there because of the 2-3 years I decided to put in. That pretty much taught the leaders that are directing it now.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That are directing it now. So the 21, 22, 23-year-old guys that are doing it now are direct descendants from the efforts I put in 10 years ago.
And you think that's gonna happen in a larger scale?
If it doesn't happen, it's dead. If we don't hand it down, it's dead. It's gonna die with you.
Well,
I'm afraid. My biggest fear is things dying with me. I don't want it to die with me.
Oh, you don't want it to be your generation.
I don't want it to end with me.
It's like, y'all millennials, you ain't pick up the torch.
Don't blame nobody but yourself. I always tell people, it's like they always complain about the next generation. That's your fault. Whatever the next generation, they're not for real. That's your fault. Because we've seen stories of people stepping up and being an example and caring about these kids genuinely and changing their entire trajectory of life. We've all had stories of people that had a stepdad that came in their life or whatever, taught them something they didn't know, and all of a sudden it's a complete different person. You know, like kids are influenced bigger than anybody. Like kids are influenced by their surrounding. Yeah. They're moldable. So if you're blaming that kid, it's your fault. Right. That's really your fault. Yeah. I don't want to hear you blame no kid for nothing. It's a kid.
That's what they're doing what kids do. They're being true to their nature.
Yeah, he's absorbing his environment. They're absorbing their environment. They only know what you tell them. That's funny. Believe it or not, you know, and the word from a human being, an older human being that's done it versus a Wikipedia, the older human being is always going to win. Believe it or not, like we always like, oh, well, we're competing with the internet. No. There's a human factor that I don't think we're calculating into this. Like
And
computers
it's
are not as
it's
trusted.
important too. I agree with you.
Yeah, humans are not as trusted as, or sorry, computers are not as trusted as humans.
Yeah, well, there's a certain level of authenticity that comes when you hear it from somebody else when it's said correctly. Because there's a asterisk next to that statement because like that only applies when it's something that you know, not something that you've been told. Because what I see a lot of times is that the boomers and Generation Xers, they'll say something that they've been heard, not necessarily something that they believe themselves. And it's like, and that used to be enough. That used to be enough. The word of somebody who was older than you used to be enough.
That was the Bible pretty much at this point.
That's not enough anymore.
Not enough anymore. Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then what that basically means is that if you're going to be telling somebody something, you got to be able to back it up. Yeah. And if you can't back it up, then they won't listen.
That's it.
They won't listen.
And that's how every reasonable, logical human being should be. You know what I'm saying? Like, we should all have that curiosity and that passion and that realization that, okay, I need you to back that up. You know what I'm saying? I need you to give me proof for that.
And I don't know what it is, but I see this in my own experience as I speak with these older generations. Especially stuff about that relates to the Bible. It's well, you got to show me that. Yeah. And most of the time, when you ask for the receipts, that's it's faulty. It's a little shaky when it comes to the kind of situation. And it's like, okay, hey, that's cool, but then don't say it to me as if it's law when you don't even know where it comes from.
And hot take, the Bible not working on these kids. I'm gonna tell you that right now. A hot take, like, the Bible is not as effective as it used to be. They want practical. They want practical talk, and I'm gonna keep bringing this up because I think that's when we kind of saw the shift, the Joel Osteen effect of people talking to you practically and giving you advice how to use on your daily life, like every day in your own life. I think this generation's coming up after us are much more interested in how can they use it today versus the Bible, which is giving them, like, in their minds how people did it back then, and it's true. A lot has changed since that era, and I think a lot of these kids are failing to take the Bible serious.
Well, it's because they're not taught to read it.
Yeah. But remember, and I think they're seeing people interpret it in ways that they would have never thought to interpret.
That's not reading.
Yeah, but it's reading. But remember, interpretation is also a part of reading.
It's not reading. No, because it's not reading. Because when you read it for yourself,
you create your own interpretation.
Right, and not only that, but you also see where these when you read the context of the foundations of these arguments that they're making, you see that they're not as cut and dry as they're made to be. It's like for example, it's like somebody will give you you'll ask a question about, we'll say, what, death, okay? Yeah. You'll ask a question about death. Somebody will give you a response, and they'll give you their opinion first, and then they'll point you to the Bible. And it's like, yo, back up, because, like, it's okay that that's what you think, but tell me what the word. Show me in the word where you got your conclusion, and then we can talk about your conclusion rather than the other way around, which is how it is now. And I think because the generations that are coming after us have so much faster access to such a wider library of knowledge, they don't care about what your opinion is. They just want to know, okay, listen, they want to form their own opinions, and so rather than give me the ending first, tell me where it is and let me decide what my opinions are. And then we can talk about where they differ and all that kind of stuff, because that's a level of respect that I think is lacking in the church right now. Yeah. Because that's what that shows. It's like, yo, if this is what I think, but the Bible says this, and you can dive as deep into that book as you want to, and that's really where the practical knowledge comes from. It comes from the study, not the actual, like, not people's opinions of what it says.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because that's actually my biggest issue with this generation. I don't complain about the generation, but the biggest issue with this generation is that they have too much choices, and it's not their fault, but there's too much choices. I don't think we've had the abundance of choices that we've had in a lifetime. Like, just imagine if you had all these choices as a kid. Like, you didn't even know that these were options, and now these kids have. We had maybe 2-3 options as a kid. You know, it's funny because you can realize if you go to kids right now, we're talking like Sabbath school age kids. I'm sorry, children's story age kids, like 12 to 18. Well, no, like we're talking like 5 to like 12.
Okay.
And you ask them, what do you want to be when you get older? It's funny because when they asked us when we were kids, 6, 7 years old, we were like, oh, well, we only know like 3 professions.
Right.
It was teacher, doctor, lawyer, fireman, policeman, whatever.
Basketball player.
Yeah, basketball player, maybe musician, whatever. Like, and there was the series ones and the non-series ones. Go in a room and ask these kids now. And I think that's the thing is that a lot of us are so out of touch with these generations.
Oh yeah.
Like
we
don't even
so
sit
fast.
there and ask them questions.
It changes so fast.
Bro.
Like the culture switches so fast.
Bro.
There's no way for you to stay up on it unless you're in it.
Dog, go ask them kids what they want to be when they get older. I guarantee you ask 10 kids, at least 3 of them are gonna say YouTubers.
Oh yeah, right? Bro. That's where
at least
the
3 of them are
money's
gonna
at.
say YouTubers.
New media is where the money's at.
One of them
we
say,
doing this on podcast right now.
One of them might say teacher or like doctor. Maybe one of them or 2 of them, but like maybe fireman, police officer. But like there's a surplus of options now. Like the amount of options that these kids have is making it more difficult for them. I think, in my opinion, it's making it a lot more difficult than what we had
to choose what they want.
That is true.
Because I mean, like if you got if there's 1,000 versions of the shampoo that you can buy, like you're not gonna pick the right one. You're never gonna pick the right one if you got 1,000 options.
It's like quality versus quantity, as we said. Like it was easy to find a quality anything like back in the day. And now it's like you gotta dig. I always tell people music is never back to like. The good music is still out there. It's just really hard to find.
It's hard to find, yeah.
It's hard to find, and it's not put in your face anymore. And it's like you don't have just 5 or 6 options. No, you got 5 or 6,000 options. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and so you at some point you need somebody you can trust to filter those options for you. And I think that's
to kind of narrow down the options.
And
I
agree. I think that's it's funny because. That's what Google did. Google's main is like there was too much internet. There's too much. Like how do we give the people what they want from this internet? It's just a sea of information and knowledge. It's like we need to be able to funnel it.
Yeah.
And it's like the most profitable company in the world.
And it's growing. That's the thing. It's
growing
like the
every biggest internet company on the planet because they decided like, yo, like this is a lot and we need to filter it for the people. And so anybody that's deciding to filter things for people, that's gonna be where like where and we can see it to this day. Food reviewers on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, influencers that decide to do an experience, travel vloggers that go to certain places and do certain events. These are the people that are making money on the internet because they're filtering experiences. Yeah. They're filtering objects. They're filtering ideas. So I think that's what these kids. Yeah, that's what these kids. That's their only problem is they have too many choices, dog. There's too much things for them to pick from. And it's I think the worst thing that could happen to them is finding the wrong filter, getting somebody that says, yeah, this is it right here.
That's what I was going to say.
And that's not it. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And I think that's what I'm more afraid of. Like, I mean, we could all talk about the Kai Cenat thing that happened like a couple weeks ago, where he pretty much said he was going to do a PS5 giveaway in New York City, and he went out there, and it was a riot, turned into a riot. Thousands of kids flooded the city. I don't know if you heard about it. It's crazy. Yeah, it's Kai Cenat. He's a Twitch streamer.
Yeah,
and he decided he was going to do a PS5 giveaway. Went out to New York and didn't have any organization to it.
Of course,
just said everybody pull up. 3:00, whatever. And it was a riot. Like they smashed police cars. They actually ended up charging him. I don't know,
of course,
what the case is in progress now, but they actually ended up charging him. I think they arrested him. And they were like, yo, you can't do that.
Inciting a riot. You can't
incite a riot. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that wasn't his intention. His intention was really just to give away things to his followers, his listeners, whatever, his viewers.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he had good intentions, but...
There comes a tipping point when it comes to stuff like that.
He is a filter. Like, as much as we don't even know this guy, and it's funny, because people didn't even know who this guy was. I knew he was because he's all over the internet. He's in memes or whatever. I just knew... I didn't watch his stream, but I knew of him. And people learned who he was the negative way, because of what he was trying to do, and the kids coming out there and they were dancing on top of cars, smashing cop cars, throwing baskets. It was a riot. It was a literal riot.
Yeah, I believe
that.
And
I think like he is a filter now, and we have to acknowledge that he is going to be filtering experiences for a whole like couple million kids. You know what I'm saying? Like he's going to be like. Okay, back in the day, we had what? Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network.
Yeah,
you had maybe
3 or 4 different
TBN,
cartoons.
the Christian,
maybe.
the Christian Network.
Maybe.
Like there was only 4 or 5 major filters that you could go down. There was only 5 or 4 slides that you could slide down and end up in a different world.
If you ain't like it, too bad.
Yeah, and if you ain't like it, there's like 4 other options. That's it. Like it's like 4 to 8 other options that you could go slide down. Now, I mean, it's crazy, man.
There's
Thousands.
There's a massive number of channels you
thousands
can have for whatever
and thousands
you want.
and thousands. Any idea you have can be validated by somebody in the world now, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to the church, who is going to act as that filter for those generations that we're talking about, the Zoomers and the new now teenagers? Yeah. I'm sure there's a name for that generation. Like, I mean, I suppose in the past it would be the generation before them who would be millennials, who would be us, but we ain't there no more. Our strategy was to bounce.
And that's a problem. That's why I said I don't blame nobody but us.
So in that scenario, who do you think becomes the filter?
I mean, it becomes the generation before us, and you start to filter the same that new genre of ideology that's supposed to happen because we're there is not there because we're skipped in that process. Yeah, we're supposed to be the filter right now. Yeah, we're supposed to be the people telling you like, hey yo, the generation before us, they wilding when they talk about this and
translating
this.
Up and down.
Yes, we're supposed to be the bridge between that generation and the generation under us, over and under. We're supposed to be the bridge, but when there's nobody there, there ends up being a big wall because there's no. They're living the generation.
Nobody wants to compromise,
mediate and compromise in the middle, and the lifestyles that these two generations are living are so completely different that there's no middle ground. Like we have pieces that we live of our parents' life in our daily life, and we have pieces that we live of Generation Z's life in our daily life. So we're that bridge. We're the ones that's going to be able to say, "Hey, yo, young blood, this thing that they telling you to do, don't even worry about it, dog." You know what I'm saying? Like we're supposed to be the people to tell them that. But if we're not there, they got no choice but to listen. And this is the sad part. If we're not there, then and they don't agree with what the generation before us is telling them to do, they're gonna look for somebody else,
or they're gonna leave.
That's what they're leaving because they're looking for somebody else. You see what I'm saying? Because they're gonna get the influence from somebody. Like you have to understand, kids are going to find influence from someone somewhere. If you're not there, it doesn't matter. Like it's just like the absentee parent argument. The parent not there, they're gonna get it from whatever streets. Yeah, their teacher. That's why teachers I think are so powerful because a lot of teachers see the kids more than the parents see the kids.
Yeah,
especially if, you got a busy parent and they work until 6 p.m. and they got to wake up at 6 a.m. to go to work. Like you're not gonna see that parent. You're not gonna see that parent.
That's true.
That parent has no influence in that kid's life. Like not no, but
definitely lesser influence.
Yeah, and they have to put in effort and like go on vacation with the kid, do stuff on the weekend with them. Some of these parents are tired. Some of these parents they give their kid a tablet on the weekend.
Especially them older generations, they be getting tired real quick, bro.
Yeah, they give their kid a tablet on the weekends, and this kid is like creating a community, like in his bedroom, he's creating a full community with a bunch of other friends at school and teachers, and it's like it takes a full village. It takes a village, man. It takes a village.com. Yeah, it's actually I actually started a brand at my church. I had a close someone in close of age to me died from a gunshot wound in Miami Gardens. And it was Alex Dean. She passed in 16? 16, yeah, I'm trying to remember the date. And I started a movement that year. It kind of became a reunion for all the people in that generation and it kind of made me tear up a little bit because a lot of these people I haven't seen come back to church in almost a decade. Some of these people I haven't seen come back to church since 2008, 9, 10, and we're in 2016 now, and I'm seeing them for the first time in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And we all came back for this girl's funeral. Yeah, we came back for this girl's funeral. So when they came back, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of just do
stay in touch.
Yeah, stay in touch for sure, but then also let's like a reunion out of it, make a kind of reunion out of it. So I decided to print T-shirts, and I wanted to kind of put a theme on it, and the theme was products of the village.
Products of the village. I see what you.
Products of the village because it took a village to get us, to get us to where we were at. Yeah,
yeah.
And I think we kind of abandoned that village, and it was really sad to me, man. And so I printed a couple hundred shirts and sold them at the church. I made it the same color as the carpet that we had in the church. It was like a maroon color. Yeah. And it had a, and this is the part that hit me. It was so the girl that passed, she had a birthmark on her face that almost resembled like a continent, like almost like a Africa looking continent. And I dug through, got some pictures. Me having a background in graphic design, I took took the birthmark off her face in one of the pictures that were clearer, and made it a logo, and put products of the village inside of the birthmark. And printed these shirts and I didn't give them out, but I sold them for like $10 a pop, like almost like dang near nothing. Sold them to everybody at the church and gave a big chunk of the proceeds to the girl's mom. And like I was just like, man, like I treasure that community that I grew up with as a kid, and I hate that these kids are not getting the same thing that we had growing up in the church.
I see what you mean. They are definitely not getting the same experience that we did. That is absolutely
because
true.
the village is not there like it used to be. All of the older women at my church were considered like second and third mothers to me. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. I mean, we were over their house. They were over our house. We knew their sons and daughters. They knew our sons and daughters. Like, it was one big happy family of just like, you want to come over, just let me know you're outside. Remember back in the day, people just knock on your door like, hey, I was in the neighborhood. Just thought I'd come and check on you.
Yeah.
I still do that. I still do that. All right. I think that's part of the community. We're missing.
Be doing that. You do be popping up.
We're missing so much familiarity with each other. Like, we act like we don't know each other. Yeah, sure. Everybody's on a separate island by themselves. Like, this used to be a continent, guys. This used to be one landmass, and everybody was down the street from each other. And it was just like, if you ever need me, just say something. And it didn't feel like you were using anybody. It was just like, you help me, I'm going to help you at some point. It wasn't like a
reciprocal.
It was all reciprocated. It wasn't like if I gave you help, you were never gonna help me back, or vice versa. It was always a known thing. Like, we have lunch at your house today, lunch at my house next week. You know what I'm saying? It was just like a community of like trust, and just and I think that's what this generation is missing more than anything else.
Trust.
And no, they're missing that community. They're missing that village. They're missing that village. Like, they're missing that. And you see it in small scales in certain churches. When you start digging, you find it's there.
Well, you have to cultivate it.
It's there, and that's who's cultivating, and that's the thing. I think somebody has to take responsibility for cultivating, and I think that gap where we left the church is we created that gap of cultivation where the generation that's older than us, they already cultivated it. They're not going to cultivate it again.
Well, they tried.
They can try, but they
know. Well, what I'm saying is, like, they tried to cultivate it, but it didn't work because we left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now we're gonna get into this in one of the later episodes. Now that everything is digital, now it's like it's simultaneously easier and more difficult to create a community today than it was back then. Which is wild to say because what does that even mean?
Bro, it's crazy to get people to even leave their house. To get people to even leave their house and pull up to somewhere at a certain time is one of the most impossible things to do in this day and age. Like, if you're not guaranteeing them something in return, like, you just, hey, pull up at 11 o'clock for this thing. And they're just like, nah.
I don't know.
Yeah, everybody's just like, nah. Because they realized they didn't really have to do that. During COVID, it was just like a thing. And you didn't have to do it. So it's a thing now where it's like everything's kind of become optional. Like somebody just checking in on somebody is like, it's a lot of work now. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, when everything is optional, you have to give people a reason to do things.
Yeah.
And I think that, before it was before there was an option to attend church virtually, you didn't have to give people a reason to come to church.
Right.
They were going to do it regardless, and with when it comes to these Zoomers, man, they're changing the culture so fast that you really got to be invested in retaining, I guess it's attention, because like you gotta do something that's going not just grab their attention, but like speak to their spirit. You
gotta speak to their personal experience.
Authenticity is gonna be the only thing that's gonna make it work.
That's it.
Because if it's fake, they gonna leave just like we.
You gotta meet them where they at, man. If you don't meet them where they're at, it's just all gonna flop, man.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. So we'll figure it out, man. I mean, I really do think that there's this reformation that we're talking about is going to be driven in large part by them, and I'm excited to see what happens. I'm getting my popcorn ready and all that stuff. So.
I'm hype about it, man. I love this next generation of kids, man. They inspire me all the time, man. They inspire me all the time. I rarely find inspiration, and this sounds bad, but I rarely find inspiration in people older than me.
Yeah.
Usually I find inspiration in new thoughts and just like advancements and what's next, and like and the kids, the way they doing it, man, is I keep doing what y'all doing. I know a lot of those don't say that enough to them, but I'm gonna tell y'all right now, keep doing what y'all doing, man.
Yeah. I'm with it. With it. All right. We've been going, bro.
Yeah, man.
This is a good topic. I'm sure we'll be revisiting this again because as time goes on, it goes fast.
I'm tired of talking about the past. I'm so tired of talking about how things used to be.
Let's talk about
why can't we go back to that? That's done, bro. Yeah. Like, let's focus on what's next. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a futurist.
Yeah.
At heart, like I always want to know what's next. People are like, you trust them self-driving cars? Yes. Yes. You trying to get rid of gasoline? Yes.
Yep.
Like I'm here for what's next, bro. Like I've always been here for what's next.
Yeah, because
So,
it's gonna be what is it? Exceedingly abundantly above anything we can ask or imagine.
Of course,
that's for
of
sure.
course.
All right, so where can people find you?
At mb.j on Instagram. That's the spot.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram too. You can find me at Legend of Andrew. That's pretty much the only place that I'll be checking regularly.